Hello, everyone. My name is Denis Villeneuve. I am the director of Blade Runner 2049 and Dune Part 2.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Welcome to Dip into the Ink, the show where I
Is
and
that the
sometimes
opening?
that's the opening.
Okay.
Welcome to Dip
Okay.
into the Ink, the show where I and sometimes a guest dive into the pages of a comic book. Hi, I'm Noah Garcia. Today I have my special guest star, Dennis Villeneuve. Fuck. Villeneuve.
Denis Villeneuve. I'm here to promote Dune Part 2.
Doing part two. All right. Is that you have so many hot people in your cast? How'd you do that? That's crazy.
I am French.
You just, by being naturally French, you just surround yourself with hot people.
No, he's Canadian.
Oh, it's
I think
Canadian
he's
French.
Quebecy. So
Quebecy. What's the
yeah,
difference? Okay.
the province of Quebec.
Hello. Today we're talking about Ultimate Spider-Man 2 by Chiedo and Hickman, and it's very exciting. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you. Just to recap our last episode, we got like 100 views on that, so thank you guys for watching that. Similar to my old vlogs, I kind of just do these as an excuse to hang out with people, to kind of just voice my opinion. So if anybody watches it, I'm very happy. And just the last issue was just so great. It laid down a really strong foundation, I felt. And before we get into the this issue, how about you just give us a quick recap on what you felt about the first one?
It's terrific. It's the best Spider-Man comic in a decade, hands down. Probably even longer.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about like I think we're both at least quasi defenders of the Superior Spider-Man run. At
Mm-hmm.
least like where it ends up, which is just like I was just geeking out about it with another friend over Zoom yesterday too. I was like, God, what a terrific ending that was. It'd be really stupid to go back and try to keep bringing that guy back.
Oh my
You'd have to be fucking
gosh.
moronic to do that. You'd have to be a caveman. You'd have to be a literal Neanderthal.
You'd have to
So
be
it's
out
a
of
good
good
thing no one's done that.
ideas. You'd have to be out of
Yeah.
ideas to do that.
Yeah, I think you'd have to be such a sizable cataclysmic idiot to do that,
Mhm.
that you would be at a danger to yourself and others around you because of how stupid you'd be.
All right, we're gonna get canceled by all the slot heads, so we gotta calm down.
I used to like Dan
I
Slott.
don't know if there
It's
are
nothing
Dan
against him
slot heads.
personally. I want to make that clear, but it's just like, man, you
Yeah.
know, I think no one's gonna have a perfect run.
Hmm.
I think sometimes you got to know when to tap out, and he didn't. I think that's okay to admit. Nothing against him personally.
You know,
It's just his career.
the thing is, there was a clear arc and story that he wanted to tell, and I think he executed it perfectly at the end. I loved the resolution. Ock, spoilers for the original Superior Spider-Man. Ock realizing that Peter truly is worthy of the mantle of Spider-Man, that he is the hero that he needs to be, and just kind of like realizing that character development, great. It's just, why are you revisiting that because of the IP? Do you have another story to tell? Like Doc Ock's a villain again. Like this is a that it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. We can't get
Yeah,
into
no,
it.
no, and I don't think this is a full on tangent either, because I
Mhm,
do think this is relevant to Ultimate Spider-Man. And
mhm,
in the time of recording, has come out that it's kind of the best selling Spider-Man book like
mhm,
in recent memory by a significant margin. Spider-Man always does like better than stuff,
mhm.
but um, it's like wiped out the mainline
Ooh, and it's
stuff.
it's gonna pop off even more when your boy brings out the Miles and Peter book.
Oh yeah, Greg Weisman. I
Your
know.
boy
I'm
Greg
so excited about that.
Wiseman.
Yeah, my Young Justice Spectacular Spider-Man King. Also the creator of Gargoyles, which
He's
I
done
need
a
to
lot.
revisit, but I
He's done
know
a lot.
he, he is such a good writer. It is upsetting that it's like he always struggles to find like an audience or like support for his work. Like he even wrote like this book series, and it's kind of like canceled after the second book out of like seven or whatever, because it's just
Oh,
not enough people read it. And it's just like, what does this guy got to do, man? What does he have to do to like have a successful like ongoing run? I don't know. I don't know. I feel for him, but that's a conversation for another time.
that's a whole
We're
other
talking Ultimate
conversation.
Spider-Man.
I love listening to the Waffle Press, which is what Diego does. I assume Waffle Press people are watching this because he's
Oh, yeah,
famous,
hi.
but they're famous for their
You say I'm
tangents. Yeah,
famous?
you're this. I
I'm
I
not.
I'm assuming any views I got on my last video were Waffle Press people, but they're
I
famous
mean,
for,
maybe, but that's
yeah.
not the same thing.
If you listen to one episode of the Waffle Press, you know they're famous for their tangents. and we've already started like several tangents here. So let's get straight to the book. Ultimate Spider-Man, let's go.
Do you think 9/11 happened in the Ultimate
Oh
Universe?
my god, the thing about Richard Nixon is that he just really fucked up. That is the cover. What's your thoughts on the cover?
Um,
If you don't have any, you're just like, I like it.
Misleading.
Miss, yeah.
No, and that's fine because
Mhm,
I didn't like, I don't keep up with comics news.
mhm,
Like, I only eventually found out about the Hickman coming onto this because it's like he was notoriously saying, "I'll never touch Spider-Man
mhm,
unless," you know? So, like, I'm not seeing any of the, like, promotional stuff for this. I'm just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna read it when it comes out."
mhm,
That's the extent of my, like, willing to participate in the press marketing runs for these.
mhm.
So I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess we're getting Green Goblin stuff in this," and
No.
we're not, which is fine,
Mhm,
um, because the strength of the book is good enough on its own.
mhm. If
But yeah, I
anything,
was
it
like,
should be
"Oh,
him
that's
and
not."
if anything,
Yeah,
it should be
yeah.
him and another villain. But we'll get
Yeah,
into
yeah,
that when
like,
we get
you
there.
could have this version of the Green Goblin, like, in the back because they're clearly building something up there.
Mhm.
Um, to what extent, we don't know yet, but yeah, another person should come by, and I'm assuming if you're watching this or listening to this, you've already read this comic book, so I think we could say it, right?
It'd be insane if someone was watching this and they didn't read the comic.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
it's Shocker. Shocker's in this one.
Shockers in this one, but we'll get to it when we get to it. But that's the
Yeah.
page we cut out. 20 years ago, the Maker prevented a radioactive spider from biting a young Peter Parker. He likewise prevented the creation of any other superheroes and formed a secret council to rule the world from the shadows. In a quest to free the world from the Maker's council, Tony Stark sent Peter, now a married father of two with a really hot wife, a package containing the same radioactive spider and Picotech suit. After watching his uncle Ben Parker and mentor J. Jonah Jameson, gay lovers, leave the Daily Bugle over pressure from the Bugle's owner, Wilson Fisk, to control the news cycle, Peter felt called to action and let the spider bite him. That's our recap. And then, of course, writer Jonathan Hickman with Mark Ciccietto as the artist, color artist Matthew Wilson, and loving the team so far. And we cut to our first real page. We get, shots of New York and Spider-Man in his black suit. And I like that they make it clear it's February because the last issue it was set in January. So it's like a year one Spider-Man maybe type thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm really curious about the structure of this because this is structured very differently from that first issue,
Mhm.
in a good way, I think it keeps it fresh and, um, it's gonna keep us on our toes, like, I'm kinda hoping it doesn't settle into, like, the normal rhythms of an ongoing book. Not that Jonathan Hickman's ever had that issue
Mhm.
particularly, it's just something I'm thinking about. Um, and yeah, so it's like the other one is like there's just the first issue is that there's this like flashback structure that comes in at the end and you're just thrown into it at the beginning. This one, it's like, okay, we're gonna keep you along for the ride the entire way through.
Mhm.
Here's where we are, here's where we're going, here's the new suit, here's the new deal. I have a question for
Damn.
you. What did you think of the suit? Because we didn't really get a good look at it.
Mhm.
I assumed it was just a silhouette in the last
Mhm.
issue.
I
I
thought
was
so
like, "Oh, no, we're just
too.
doing the black suit first."
I for we'll discuss it in a bit, but for reasons I like it because it's very much a base suit. I think the idea of the colored suit is one that a younger Peter Parker would find really appealing, but this older Peter Parker who's just, he's stumbling around, he's figuring out his powers. I think he would want something a bit more stealthy, so I like it.
Mhm.
And I am curious within the frame of this comic, it's never mentioned on whether or not he makes his web, so I guess we can assume this is organic webbing.
Oh,
Like
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's never
Oh,
like,
god, I hope so.
like it's never like you never see him making the cartridges. So it'd be interesting if this was organic webbing. And shout out to your guy, I guess. I don't know.
Sam Raimi.
Sam
Yeah,
Raimi.
no. That is crazy that, like, that's the
Mhm,
first instance of that, like, no one else thought, like, "Oh, yeah, it makes a little more sense to just make it, like, a full on,
mhm.
like, a bio horror thing." Like, yeah, the webs come from him. He's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Just
He
because you
lays
stick to stuff. Other
eggs.
bugs stick to stuff. He could have been Mantis Man, like, it's so the webbing is pretty specific to spiders, so yeah, that makes sense.
I like that. But yeah, what do you think of the suit?
Yeah, I like it too because he doesn't have his
Mhm,
superhero identity yet, and this issue is about him starting to figure out, okay,
mhm,
like, I'm reclaiming something that was taken from me.
Mhm.
Putting a lot of faith in that message I just got from a supposed terrorist, I
Yeah.
guess. Um,
Okay,
but I've always known something's off, so let me.
Osama bin Laden sent you an orb, back in, like, 2007, Diego, and he's just telling you were supposed to be a hero. How do you take that?
I'd have some questions.
That's a good it's a
I
praying mantis
probably.
pops out and just bites you.
Oh God, no, because
Praying
then
mantis man.
yeah. I wonder if the mating thing would apply to that. I hope not, because that wouldn't go well for
Oh my
me.
god. Yeah,
But
that
um, no, I would have questions.
Mhm.
And then especially, let's say that was 2007, you said, right? And then like 4 years later, I would have more questions because
Yeah.
then he would be dead. And I'd be like, well, am I on a watch list now? Am I gonna get zero dark 30'd? I don't know. That would
But off
suck.
topic, off topic. And we find out in the next page that our shot of Spider-Man spinning is a photo. We have little May Parker. I forget the kids' names. I feel bad.
I did
May,
no, I did too, but May Parker because of Aunt May,
yeah, because of
and then
Aunt May.
the other one I
Richard,
forget. We'll find out.
Richard. His name's
Richard?
Richard. She says it. She
Oh,
says,
okay,
"Dad,
like his
Richard
dad.
says it
Okay,
isn't real." I think it's funny
okay.
that they're at the dinner table and Richard's reading like the fucking nerd he is, and May has she's an iPad kid. She has her iPad out, and Richard's just like, "Oh, that's CGI. It's not real." I think that's really funny because the existence. It's funny because Peter kind of retorts, "Is like, well, you used to think unicorns real," and she's like, "Unicorns are real." Which is crazy to live in a world where you're like, yeah, the Sasquatch, we haven't seen it, but it's probably real. I mean, mutants are here. Why can't there be a Sasquatch? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like there's a very real chance that unicorns exist here.
Yeah, there
Like,
are ghosts.
although I guess because of this universe, they've altered
Yeah.
that, you
Hmm.
know. So it's like maybe they don't in this one, but we'll find out in the other worlds that
Mm.
they do still exist. You know.
And,
Um. Oh yeah, that's I do like this page a lot because the dialogue is very good. It informs us about like who these people are. Like they're not just a family. Like everyone has their own little perspective on
mm,
stuff. Um, and they're also not like exposition heavy.
mhm,
It's all like it all informs their perspective or their character. And so when May is talking about how like oh like I don't like it, and they're saying like oh there's nothing to be
mm,
scared of, and then May is like what are you scared of? Peter says Photoshop. She's like tell me about it, and it's like well yeah like this is
mm.
it's a relatable struggle nowadays with the whole like concept of AI and like altered images, and it's like what's real, what's not. And it's like you could a little critical thinking goes a long way, but like it if you're not careful, you can kind of get sold a lot of lies these days.
And
um,
lying through media is gonna be a part of this series.
yeah, yeah. So it's
And
like, look at that, they got their finger on the pulse
yeah,
for
they're ready.
once.
And I think it's interesting because we've talked in the last episode about how you have to be really efficient in comics because you only have a limited amount of pages, you only have so much space. So you really have to be smart in how you kind of showcase your characters. You can see May, how she's talking, how Richard's talking, how they all act. You get a real clear view of what their personalities are, you know?
Mhm.
And he's trying to calm her down, and she's clearly scared of this guy in a black suit. And Mary Jane walks in, and there's a funny moment where she's like, "What are we scared of?" And Peter's like, "Photoshop," and she's like, "Tell me about it." And as a former model, I'm sure she's familiar with Photoshop and all the
Mhm.
dangers of it. But we cut to the next page, where I love their little, it's just such casual parent talk, like I have climbing to this, I have to do this, call the sitter, and it's just I just love the casualness of it, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And there's a cute moment at the end of the page where she kind of looks at him and she's like, "Have you been working out?" And he's like, "Maybe a little." I'm just like, oh my gosh, Mary Jane checking out your husband.
I know it's saucy.
It's very saucy. They bang all the
Yeah.
time.
What?
They bang all the time.
Oh yeah, probably.
They have a great
um
love life.
yeah, like bunnies, but there's a I like that Peter still looks like a mess, in this
Mhm.
one, like a little scruffy looking, I guess.
Yeah, he's a little
Maybe not a
scruffy guy.
mess, scruffy looking. Um, I'm not a concern. I'm just curious when she's gonna find out because it's like, hey,
Mhm.
it's a pretty big change in your life. Maybe don't hold on to that secret too long.
Mhm. 'Cause that's gonna fuck you over,
Might not
Peter.
go well.
Historically, it has not gone well.
I know.
And it's been a month, dude. It's been like a month, so I don't
Yep.
know. Maybe we get started on that.
Yep.
But we cut from that page to the next one where see a bit of Spider-Man having a bit of a monologue as he swings through the city. He's talking about how he's sticky and he eats a lot of calories and he's strong. And it's very cute because you see him doing all these amazing feats on this one page. And then we cut to the next and he crashes because he just doesn't know how to land. He doesn't know how to land. He doesn't know how to stop. And that's just very funny to see like an adult man trying to figure out these amazing powers, you know?
Yeah, like, they're really taking their time, like,
Mhm.
just exploring, like, "Hey, what's this guy's like, what's it like learning a new trick when you're, like, almost middle-aged at this point?"
Mhm.
Like,
Middle-aged
it's
man learning
you can do
Spanish.
it, but it's, like, it's tough, you know?
Mhm.
It's he's literally becoming, like, a whole new person now.
And there's kind of a funny line where it's like, "Oh, I've learned that I can take a beating, a serious beating could come in handy." And I will say one of the things Spider-Man is known for is getting his shit rocked. I feel like that's essential to Spider-Man is just every once in a while he has to get the shit beaten out of him, you know?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. So there I don't know if you
Mhm.
remember, but, like, specifically around the time the Amazing Spider-Man movies came out,
Mhm.
and even now still, there's, like, a subset of Spider-Man fans that, like, oh, want him to be, like, the best at everything, like, he never loses, like, because he always tries his best, and it's like, well, that's you're, like, halfway there. I agree with the second part. The losing kinda seems to be essential to the Spider-Man thing. Not that he has to be, like, a loser, just, it's like his whole thing is, like, relatable working class struggles, so, feel
Well,
like, you
j-
kinda gotta get the short end of the stick there a
just
bit.
losing is part of story convention. It's how stories flow. I don't understand when people want I understand a bit why people want their favorite characters to just be like these invincible titans that can do no wrong and always bounce back, but just losing and failure is part of stories. It's part of us. It's just I don't know. That's
Yeah,
it
and it's
just
not just the physical attributes either, it's
mhm.
like, you gotta think about, like, the emotional character decisions too, like, I'm just gonna pull a suggestion out of a hat, like, if I was gonna adapt, like, Avatar: The Last Airbender and, in live action, and,
Mhm.
I took a look at the character of Aang and the side adventures they go on, particularly in that 1st season for no particular reason, um, I would maybe wanna include those because he's a 12-year-old boy or 13-year-old boy, he's a little boy, it doesn't matter, who has the fate of the world on his shoulders and, is the last surviving member of his people, and you maybe want to explore that a little bit. Maybe he doesn't just directly swing into plot conventions to um, just to streamline the narrative. Maybe you want to explore like, hey, that's a lot of insecurities you got
You
on
know,
top of just being a teenage boy.
I talked to the network and they said we had to cut all that. But we
I
found a
think.
Sokka actor with a giant chin that could cut open a vault, and we're gonna hire him.
Oh yeah, didn't he lie about
He
being
lied about
indigenous?
yes, he did lie about being
It's weird that
indigenous.
that just stopped getting talked about. But
Yeah,
hey,
he just
anyways,
uh,
Spider-Man doesn't have that problem right
he
now. So
doesn't. That's he has lots of problems, but not that one.
yeah.
Anyways, we go to the next page. Famous waffle press tangents, and then we get something really gay. I love it. We cut to a scene in the Russian Turkish baths where Jonah and Ben are talking, and it's just I don't. The thing is, we talked a lot about efficiency in comic books, and you could say that this is pointless, but I kind of feel like this is just kind of showcasing the kind of relationship they have. Because Jonah is talking about like, oh, well, I have coffee every day. That's bad, right? Like, is it bad for me? And it's funny because Uncle Ben is just like, are you gonna stop? No, okay, it's not bad for you. Whatever. Like, this just kind of showcases their relationship. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's very cute dialogue. But yeah, they're in the sauna, and at the end of the page, it's funny because Jonah just looks so proud of himself. He's like, "I'm good, right?" And Ben just looks so like
Yeah.
tired, and it's like a smart ass friend and another one that's just like tired of their shit, but they love each other nonetheless. You know,
Yeah, they share one brain cell,
they
maybe.
share one bracelet and they pass it back and forth like a joint.
Yeah.
But Uncle
That's why it's
Ben,
all steamy.
that's why it's all steamy. They say so. Uncle Ben says, "I got something," and he talks about how there was an attempt on Wilson Fisk last night, and we found out a couple of things that apparently the Fisk compound's a black hole. You can't get information in and out, but somebody leaked a little bit, and it's the same guy going after Fisk, and we kind of have to. I. The thing is, it's just so Harry being the Green Goblin is so obvious. It almost feels like a red herring.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like everything. What it's only been 2 issues. It's only been 2 issues. But whatever information we've been given is really pointing towards him. So I'm curious if they're just gonna do it or if it's gonna be something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
it wouldn't surprise me if it was a red herring, but, on the other side, it wouldn't surprise me if it was just Harry, and
Mhm.
I don't think that's, like, a cop out even. I think it's what a lot of people expect, but this relationship, he doesn't have it with the Parkers, you
Oh
know?
yeah, he doesn't know them at all.
So, yeah, so they, like, there's still a whole new avenue to
Mhm.
explore there, they're not the same people, they're different people. We just know them by their names. So it's like, that's interesting, and I do like that we all kind of, like, just we basically like, they don't say the Green Goblin,
Mhm.
We all just the way they're talking about it and, like, they're describing the
The
flying around and stuff,
yeah.
it's like, "Okay, oh, yeah, we're doing that, okay. Why is Green Goblin doing a Green Goblin thing? I don't know, we gotta keep
Yeah,
reading."
yeah, we don't know
Um,
this guy, and
yeah.
as you say, he's not Green Goblin. They call him the lunatic flying around in green armor, because this world doesn't have heroes. They don't have kitschy nicknames and
Mhm.
titles and stuff. But we go over to the next page. They're still in the sauna, and they talk about how in that page we saw was from the Daily Bugle. There's a cute moment where Jonah's like, "Oh, that was a great picture by Peter, by the way."
Mhm.
And of course, Peter, now that he's Spider Man, is taking pictures of himself as he always does. And I just love their dialogue. Jonah's just like, "So why didn't he give it to us?" And then Ben's just
Mhm.
like, "Because we're not open yet, and he's not working for us." And Jonah's like, "And he
Yeah.
never will if he keeps that up." It's just they're so cute together. They should kiss. Anyways,
Yeah, it's definitely Grace and Frankie coded for
mhm.
those that watch the Netflix show. You know what I'm talking about?
And it's interesting because I don't know I know of Grace and Frankie, but I've never watched Grace and Frankie. Is it a funny show
Okay,
or is
well,
it a drama?
it's a comedy. Like, there's
Okay,
there's some emotional stuff in it, but it's never too heavy. Like, it's one of the most entertaining shows, like, of the last decade, in my opinion.
because
But what I guess I'll just explain it for you and some audience members then. Grace and Frankie are 2, wives of best friends that hate each other, like, they do not get along whatsoever, but their husbands are best friends, so whatever, they put up with each other for, like, 40 years, 50 years, whatever. Then one day they go to dinner and their husbands tell them that they have been in love with each other for the last, like, 20 years, and they're going to ask for a divorce so they can be together finally. And I feel like these 2 are the husbands that would leave their wives for each other.
oh
That's
my
why
god,
I call them Grace and Frankie
I
coded.
love that. No, I love
Yeah.
that. And they bring up a very interesting point about how they're burying once again the media lying, as we mentioned earlier. They're burying all information about the Green Goblin attack, and they're really highlighting Peter to like throw to give some spectacle to hide the thing that's actually affecting them. And there's a panel where they're like, "Oh, want to get to work? Yes, I do. We still need a name, and they're working on it." And I assume they go bang in the bathhouse. I'm sorry, I'll stop saying that, but we
No,
got,
no, you have no reason not to believe that, frankly. Maybe not enough
Mhm.
of a reason to believe that, but I
That's how shipping works. You see one character look at another, and you say, "Oh, they should be together."
yeah, yeah, I will say these last 4 pages do run the slight risk of telling more than showing,
Hmm.
but, like, I just trust Hickman enough to know that it's like, "Okay, we're not seeing the Green Goblin happenings for a
Hmm.
reason." Probably because of that red herring mystery stuff, right? And he's not
Hmm.
just doing a mystery for the sake of a mystery, he's doing something. Hickman's never half-assed anything, you know? Like, I don't have this sort of faith in most comic book writers anymore
Mhm.
and at the big 2, but it's like, no, like, I'm not worried. It's there. I trust him implicitly, and we will get there when we get there. And in the meantime, I like establishing this new dynamic. I mean, that's the other thing. You're right. We're just seeing these characters like learn more about them and how they're
Mhm.
like perceiving the events around them. We've never seen this dynamic before. They've
Mhm.
never had a dynamic before. This is literally completely new material for this
Mhm.
stuff. So
And it's
yeah,
fine to
thumbs
take
up.
time and explore it, 'cause we've just
Yeah,
never seen it before.
explore it while they explore each other's bodies.
Oh my god. Anyways, we go to the next page. And Peter kind of revamps what he was thinking last issue. He says, "Here's an existential question. If the life you had stolen from you 20 years ago was suddenly given back to you, are you obligated to try and relive some version of it? Because if you did feel like that, you had to relive that life, wouldn't you just be the 20 years behind the curve?" And it's a very interesting kind of debate he's having with himself. And it's very interesting. It's very midlife crisis coded. Like, oh, this thing that I wanted but never have, and now I have it. Do I try to adopt how I would view it as I was younger, or do I just adapt it to how I'm doing in life now? And if I do that, is it even the thing I wanted when I was younger? Like, it's a very interesting midlife crisis discussion. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, and I think it's also just kind of addressing like how to approach this book in a way too. Like that's
Hmm.
not the sole purpose of this, but it's not just gonna be the same Spider-Man narrative in a new world. Like
Hmm.
it's gonna be it has to explore different stuff.
Hmm.
It's not just gonna be him. Um, like I bet Uncle Ben's not gonna die. He's not gonna get the great power with great responsibility monologue.
Hmm.
Like the same way, anyways. Which does make me question what is gonna cause that because I'm sure that
Watch
will
out,
come up at some
MJ.
point.
Watch out, kids.
Yeah, that would be a bummer,
That
frankly.
would be a
Don't
bummer.
maybe don't do that one.
All right, I'm
That
sorry I
might
put
be a
that
little
out
too
into the
heavy.
universe. I'm sorry I put that
Yeah,
out into the
don't.
universe. Don't listen to me. I know you're watching
Oh,
Jonathan Hickman.
yeah, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that's interesting because now it kind of makes me think: is this sort of also a message to older Spider-Man fans that might have picked up a comic because of Jonathan Hickman? Is this sort of
Mhm.
saying like, hey, we can't redo how younger Peter would do things, so we have to do it how this older version of Peter would do it. It's a different Peter. It's kind of saying that
Yeah.
to the
Oh,
audience. This is a different version of Peter.
yeah, and, like, maybe he doesn't even need that "with great power comes great
Hmm.
responsibility" monologue. Maybe he was just, like, having been there, um, and without having that responsibility and power thrust upon him at a younger age, like, maybe he
Hmm.
just got to experience that by living a normal life. Like, maybe he's even better at the start. Maybe he's not gonna make the same mistakes the younger Peter would or
Hmm.
mainline Peter would, which they just kinda have him make mistakes now because 'cause they're like, "Well, that's Spider-Man," and it's like, "Well,
Hmm.
you do it for a reason, and just have him not be with Mary Jane
Yeah.
because you guys don't want them together." Didn't one of
So
those editors, like, lie about being Japanese?
we don't need to get into that. Yes.
Okay, yeah, see, I'm starting beef today with everyone.
Oh my god, I love it. But Spider-Man's happy. He stuck the landing. He's kind of thinking to himself, and he's like, "If only there was a sign." And then suddenly, we see a guy breaking in, and it's the Shocker. Oh my gosh! It's the first appearance of the Shocker, and it's funny because Shocker looks at him. He's like, "What are you supposed to be?" And Peter's like, "That's amazing that you asked me because I don't. I'm still thinking about it." And it's just what do you think? Let me see if there's because for those who don't know, I'm kind of looking at the comic pages. What do you think of the suit so far? It's
I really like it.
mhm,
So, these are much more grounded
mhm.
interpretations of the character thus far, or all the characters thus far. Um, and so that's like a bomb squad vest
Yeah, I
he's
assumed it's
got on.
insulated from maybe electricity or something.
I
Maybe
mean,
some
that
sort of
that too, but
insulated
like the
suit.
design is specifically like
Hmm.
for bomb squad, like uh people that are supposed to deactivate bombs and stuff like that
Oh,
in war
okay.
zones or like in SWAT teams and stuff like that, or bomb squads, obviously. So I'm curious if Like, if that's just a tell or if that's just a design Hickman used, either way, I'm interested. Um, yeah, it's fun he doesn't
Mhm.
have, like, a fancy mask, it's literally just, like, a
Yeah,
a
he's wearing a
a
ski
black
mask,
mask, a black ski mask, yeah,
and
with them.
this isn't a world that's like since World War II has had costume heroes. So you're not going to see anyone in this universe in spandex. They're going to be something a bit more practical because it is a bit more of a grounded reality, you know?
Mhm, yeah,
And we
uh,
see Peter's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead."
well, just the conversations, like, I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, man, I feel like coming home." Like,
It's really good.
it's just good to see Spider-Man riffing with a villain for a second,
Mhm.
like, not even being antagonistic, like, genuinely like, "Yeah, I don't know, I'm figuring this out as I go."
And he doesn't even punch him. He's like, "Hey, so what you doing? What's going on, buddy?" And the next page is it feels very dad coded because he's like, what are you doing? And there's a very cute moment where he's like, thanks. You're not. He's like, Shocker goes. He's like, I guess I'll go home now. Clearly, whatever I had planned was wrong, and I'd like to thank you for stopping me before I did something I regret. And Peter's like, what? And it's funny. And they go for a little handshake. He's like, thank you. I owe you. And then Shocker just fucking electrocutes. He's like, just call me the Shocker. And he just shoots him. Peter lands in the fucking garbage. And it's very Peter Parker to just fuck up your first villain, you know?
Mhm. Um, did you believe that this version of the Shocker was gonna be like, "Oh, man, maybe I am making a mistake," or were you waiting for the other shoe to drop?
I The thing is, I had no idea. So when I read it, I was like, oh shit, is this real? Like for a second, I thought it was real. I really did. But what about you?
Yeah, I wanted to believe it was real. I was like, "Oh, are we doing this? Like, I would like that. I don't believe it." And then I read a little further down,
Mm.
and then he goes for the handshake, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, we're doing that. Okay." And yeah, that was very funny.
I thought it was funny. I enjoyed it. I like the Shocker as a character. I haven't read too much from him, but I enjoy him.
I love the Shocker. I think the Shocker could be such a great iconic villain.
Mhm.
Um, I think there's so much left on the table with that character, but I don't
You
I
do
don't
a
wanna
lot with
give it
him.
away. Not that I'm ever gonna write a Spider-Man comic, I have a very specific idea of
Mhm.
what that character could be, and did ever do it, no.
I,
Not that
I
this has to fulfill that, this is
yeah.
a personal thing, but
I know him mostly from Miss Marvel because there was a time because I've read him in Miss Marvel where he's like, no one's ever in Jersey, and she's like standing right there, and she's like, this is literally my home. Like he's like,
yeah,
everyone's in New
that's
York, no one's in Jersey, and she's like, hi, I'm here.
yeah, that sounds about right
Mhm.
for him.
And they do, but Peter lands in the garbage, ouch, and then it sees later he returns to his apartment and he's like, I can't believe I fell for that. Let's be friends. And I think it's very interesting the way his, I don't know if it's like the Venom esque suit. It's not Venom, but the suit kind of like deteriorates to open for his mouth. I'm curious
Mhm.
if the suit responds to his commands. Does he have to? He doesn't press any buttons or anything, but I just think it's an interesting
Yeah.
aspect.
No, no, I agree, and I'm wondering if, like, when eventually MJ finds out, like, that's when he's gonna explain it and be like, "Well,
Mhm.
it does this or whatever, yada yada," and then that's what will fill in those little gaps.
I wonder if she could understand his midlife crisis because it was mentioned in the first issue that she quit modeling and acting or something to run a small business. And I feel like
Mhm,
the idea of a small business isn't something you do on a whim. It's more like this is something I always wanted to try doing. So maybe she'll
mhm.
understand from that perspective, but we don't know yet. But
Yeah,
Peter
yeah.
sits down with some vanilla ice cream, and May Parker just walks out. And I feel bad because she starts crying. It's like, oh boy. And he reveals his identity. And Peter Parker, you suck at hiding your identity. Look at you. It's
I
been your
know.
second issue,
It's
and your daughter already knows.
he's my perfect idiot boy,
Yeah.
always.
She's like, "Why are you dressed like that guy?" And he's like, "What if I told you he dresses like me?"
Yeah.
He's so dumb. And
It's
then
it's so good.
and it's funny because I feel like his son's very analytical and he'd have a million questions, but his daughter's a bit more he's younger, so he's like, "I got bit by this special spider and it gave me powders." And she's like, "You got bit by a magic spider?" Like she's not asking important questions like, what did it do to you?" And she's just absorbing information, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then again, that's telling you what type of person she is. Because if it was his son that found him, the more analytical, scientific, he'd be like, "What did it change your DNA?" The son would be more inquisitive.
Yeah, and I think it's the two sides of like Peter,
Hmm.
honestly. Like that's not just their purpose, obviously, in the story, but
Hmm.
um right now he's got that doe-eyed like wonderment and like, oh, this is like my life is so exciting again right now. Like I feel like I can do anything. And
Hmm.
when you're a kid, that's a very kid-like response too to like new experiences, new environments. So it's like, okay, it makes perfect sense why this is the first character in his family to find out,
Hmm.
you know?
And it's Peter tells her to let's not tell your mom or your brother. Let's keep it a little secret. And said we'd talk about it later. And she said, I don't like the costume. And he's like, oh, maybe we can do something about it. And it a very cute. We'll talk about it. I'll just say it now. Later on in the issue, she draws him like a little spider with the classic Spider-Man colors, and I think it's a very cute idea to have. His daughter was like, "I don't like your costume; it's scary," and he's like, "All right, well, let me change it." Like that's a very cute idea.
Yeah, I love that too because I was like, I don't need that original Spider-Man suit,
Hmm.
but it does kind of feel like if what this story's doing is like not just remixing, but like finding the truth of these characters through like a different perspective, then
Hmm.
maybe it might be helpful to have that original suit. Um, and it makes sense that it's coming from his heart, his family,
Yeah.
like that gets there because that's who this Peter Parker is now. He's not by himself anymore. He's not some loser without friends and being picked on. He's like he's got a very loving support system.
And
So it's
I
like
feel
okay,
like
use them to inform him.
yes, exactly. And I feel like there might be a transition because we've only seen him work at night. And Spider-Man, is an all-day villain. What a, Spider-Man is an all-day hero, stopping villains any time of the day. So maybe there'll be more of a public transition where he's going out, and he's not gonna want to be in that black suit because the black suit is scary. He wants something bright and colorful that kids will like, something friendly.
Mhm.
But we cut
Yeah,
over
'cause
to the next. Go ahead.
well, I just want to say like he's doing it for himself right now,
Hmm.
and something's gonna change where he realizes he has to
Yes.
do more
Hmm.
than just do it for himself because it was taken from him, you know? Like, even though that's an unjust thing that happened, it's like, you can't just make a decision just because you want to. Like, you gotta think
Hmm.
like, okay, if you gotta commit to something bigger with that level of power. That comes like,
Hmm.
that big level of responsibility, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, you're right. I like that idea. It's a very personal thing he's doing, and then eventually he has to branch it out and realize, well, yes, I'm doing this for me, but I affect so many more people. Just to bring another reference, I think it was Max Landis, I forget, who did Superman American Alien, a book that I stand by a lot. And there's a very interesting chapter in that in the comic where Clark's friends from Smallville come to visit him in Metropolis, and he's just talking about like, oh yeah, I stopped bad guys this, and then his friend Pete's just like, why are you taking this so lighthearted? Do you understand what you've become? And Clark is just like, oh, I'm just a small town guy helping people, and Pete's like, no, you're a symbol. You're you're becoming so much bigger than anything you've ever thought you could be, and you're transformative now. You don't belong to you. You're not you anymore. You're Superman. And I wonder if there's going to be a moment in this comic where Peter Parker, he's doing this because he feels like he lost something because of his own personal gains. And I wonder if there's going to be a time where he's going to be like, I'm doing this for me, but also I'm Spider Man. The idea of Spider Man is bigger than my personal gripes, it's bigger than
Mhm.
my personal things, and I need to serve the public. And that goes back to power and responsibility and whether or not that's something he needs to learn or something he already knows or how that's going to be translated onto the page and if it needs to be. So I think that'll be an interesting thing.
Yeah, I just have to say that's a crazy pull, to bring up American Alien specifically,
Well, it's
because that
behind
writer
me. It's behind me on the shelf. So,
I don't know, that's unfortunately, that's a great book. Max
mhm.
Landis, who's never done anything weird ever,
Oh my
maybe
god.
Google Max Landis, allocations to learn more.
I, I
Um,
I don't approve of the person. I'm just I'm
yeah.
talking about the
Many
writing.
people don't. Some might even
Uh-huh.
say he is the worst result of helicopter parenting. Um, maybe don't Google that one too much,
Yeah,
But, uh, yeah, I
Mhm.
just gotta shut him for a second. He's
Yeah.
a terrible person. Fuck him. It's good that he can't get work anymore.
You know what?
Unfortunately,
I bought my
American
comic.
Alien
Yeah.
your comment is accurate. Unfortunately, American Alien is quite good, and I do like that book a lot.
You know what? I bought my copy pre-owned from a library in Mississippi online, so I'm happy. I did nothing wrong. But,
No, no, you're good. You're good. You're good. You're not a Max Landis
mhm.
defender. I
I
don't think
am
there are
not.
anymore. So
I don't think so. What would his fans be? Landers? Maxis? I don't know. Anyways, next page, we cut back to Wilson Fisk, where he's talking to this one-eyed ponytail guy. And it's interesting. There's an interesting conversation here because Wilson Fisk is obviously serving greater powers, which is not something Wilson Fisk is typically known for. So it's sort of, are you playing them until you can get the one up on them? And Wilson kind of talks to this agent of higher power, and he says, "Well, I'm using the spider guy, to kind of get everyone's attention off our real problem." And the higher powers representative says, "That's not the game being played, Mister Fisk. The game being played is give them nothing and make them like it," which I think is a very interesting comment on today's society because I feel like you could say it far more elegantly than whatever I'm forming in my head, but it's like social media and the news, a lot of it is constructed to kind of give us our dopamine hit and distract us from real issues. And not by giving us other issues to distract us, but just to give us like silliness to distract us from things that actually matter. Am I making sense?
no, you are. You know completely. And like, look, I will say there's
Mhm,
like part of it is just that on some level, I don't think art can ever truly like encapsulate a one to one human experience, right?
mhm,
I don't think like art can radically change the way we view political subjects or statements in the world too much. Maybe I'm wrong. Um, we're seeing social media basically cut the legs of a genocide's PR team, like right at the start, which was great, but also hasn't stopped it. You know, it started to get
mhm,
very heavy really quickly. So it's like there's that aspect. And I think more people are willing to call it out. And I think even though we haven't seen a radical shift to
mhm.
positive results as of now, doesn't mean they won't happen. And I think to bring it back to the book, that's a fear that whoever this guy is in Kingpin, like I think that's a fear that they
Mhm.
have. It's like don't get a lid on this stuff like that can lead to something where we're no
Mhm.
longer in charge of these people, you know. And to your point about Kingpin, like maybe serving a higher power, or physically serving a higher power here, like I think I mean I agree with you. I do think that, like he does love New York more than anything, you
Mhm.
know. So it's like as long as he's got his, that's all that matters,
Yeah.
you know. Which we have seen also in the real world. Like a lot of people, um, like as long as they have theirs, like they'll pull up the ladder behind
Mhm.
them, you know. And
Yeah.
it's like that feels very Wilson Fisk to me.
Okay, I see what you mean. And on the next page, they have a bit more of a conversation where where the representative says, literally what you said, actually, kind of right now. He says, "We gave everyone your little kingdoms, and so you get to play king, Mr. Fisk, for as long as you can hold on to your kingdom." And Fisk kind of retorts, he's like, "I don't play king, I am one. And I see the enemies at my walls." And it's interesting because it's just more of we don't know who these big bad, but how their agents act informs the direction that they're going. So it's just interesting to see them kind of talk. I It's a lot of talking this issue, and a
Mhm,
lot of it is very much giving you the idea of how these characters act, and I can appreciate that because I can understand if people might be frustrated because it feels like things don't necessarily happen this issue, but what does happen is a lot of it's laying down more character work for all the players involved, you know?
mhm,
So I do
yeah.
like that. And on the next page, I have it out. Peter's on his phone, he's hanging on a gargoyle. I like on his text boxes, there's like small little spider webs. It's very interesting. I think those are non-diegetic, right?
Yeah, they're just for the
Yeah,
reader,
yeah, they're just for the
which
reader.
I really love too, because the
Mhm,
artwork is always, like, very consistently good so far,
mhm,
but they're playing with it much more than I think I anticipated going into
mhm,
it too. Like, you can't do this in literally any other book,
mhm.
but do it here.
You'll do
It
it
looks
here.
cool.
That's kind of the mantra for I feel the whole Ultimate line is that we can't do it in any other book, so we'll do it here.
Yeah.
And
Can't make good books
yeah,
unless you're doing them on the side right now, so
yeah.
make the good ones here, let the rest of them suffer, I guess.
So Peter and MJ are texting back and she's like, "Oh, I'm with the kids." And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to be out late." And Peter heads on out and once again, it's the shocker. And I love the dialogue here because Peter's like, "Oh, hey there, fancy us running into each other," and Shocker's like, "Yeah, how'd that happen?" And Peter's like, "You know what they, it feels so dad coded." You know what I mean? He's like, "You know what they call something that someone does at the same time every night, every single day, right? A habit. And you got some bad habits, Mister." And it's just the dialogue is just so dad coded. You know what I mean? It's quippy, it's Spider-Man quippy, but in just a different way. I feel, you know.
Yeah, and, like, in a lot of ways, it's a natural evolution of that
Mhm.
character, not just being a father, but, like, the dad jokes. Like, can you believe we've been missing out on this for decades?
It's insane.
Yeah, so in some ways, uh, like, the precipice of this book being like, "Oh, they took this from you." It's like, "Yeah, they did take this from us. They did take the dad Spider-Man, Spider Dad away from us."
We could have had
You
this for
know?
years.
Yeah, you fucks. This is why no one reads comics anymore. Well, this is why people will read comics again. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
Shout out
maybe yeah.
Jonathan Hickman. But we cut to the next page, and Peter Whip. They're doing a little. Here's a little bit of action for you. He gives him a little punch, and it's interesting because in this one page he gives him a gut punch, and a little bit of blood comes out of Shocker's mouth, and he immediately gives up. He's like, I think you broke my ribs." And Peter's like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I'm still learning my strength." Awkward. And once again, Shocker's like, it's my wife. She's dying, and we don't have money. And Peter's like, oh, I can't imagine that. Wait, is that true? And then Shocker just shoots him off the building. And he's like, not again. Like, Peter, get your shit together. Come on, man. And it'd be very funny if Shocker is just a consistent villain in this book that just always gets away. I kind of want that now.
I kind of do too, and I also kind of love that. Like,
Hmm.
I think of even the fucking Dark Knight trilogy, which is known for being like some grounded,
Hmm.
serious melodrama. It's like it's so fucking funny. Like Scarecrow pops up in every one of those movies
Hmm.
just to be a little silly guy, you
Yeah,
know?
he's just like, the Batman, he is
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah. Well, okay, the first one he is actually kind of scary, but the
But
other
in the
two,
other
it's
two,
like,
he's
oh yeah,
fine.
he's playing fucking he's playing court in the third movie. Like that's hilarious, dude.
Mhm.
Like,
Like,
yeah, more superhero stories should have
mhm.
just a little guy running around being like, "Oh, darn, he got away again," or like, "Oh, really? We're doing this again?" Just something. That's fun, you know?
It kind of reminds me in a bad way of the MCU and how they have a villain issue, which there's a million villain issues. But one of them being is that they never stick around. They're just
Mhm.
immediately wiped out, they're killed. They're just you never hear from them again. So it's fun to have recurring villains. It's fun to have
Yeah.
Shocker in your comic book. Who knew?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and Shocker's in Homecoming, and I was like, "Oh, man,
Mhm.
we're getting Shocker finally." He's still alive.
Yeah, bring him
Where
back.
is he? He coulda popped up in the beginning of Far From Home. That would have made one good scene in that movie, and then he coulda popped up again in No Way Home. You
Mhm.
coulda gotten another good scene
That would have been
in
so
that movie.
cute if each movie, like No Way Home, he's like, again, and Peter's like, I ask myself that question every time I see you.
Yeah,
Like,
like and then you could play with fun stuff because it's like, well, now everyone knows who he is, so now maybe Shocker's getting bold or something. I don't
mhm.
know. You could have made a lot of choices to make those last 2 movies good, but they made choices to make them bad instead. So, here we are.
Oh my god. I'm
Sorry.
gonna. It's okay. No, it's just a lot. Thinking about that movie does things to my brain. We cut to the next page, and Shocker's really happy with himself, and he blasts himself on his little electricity. I guess he can do little jumps with it. And finally, our the cover star Green Goblin is just watching from afar. And I think it'll be interesting if maybe he'll approach Shocker and see how effective Shocker is. Maybe he'll go to Spider-Man and be like, "Hey, you want to do something that matters? Like this whole time you're fighting losers. You want to fight the actual bad guys?" Or maybe a speech like that. I have no idea. But yeah, it's a silent page where Green Goblin is staring on. And we go to another page, the last page, and Peter's like, "So in my last few days, I've not only managed to get my butt kicked twice, but I accidentally also revealed my secret identity to my kid. Worse than that, I scared her." And he gets home, he grabs some milk, he drinks raw milk like a psychopath. Uh, like that's
Peter
milk, right?
Parker's a weird dude.
He's a mess. He's a mess, and I don't know. Anyways, as I mentioned earlier, he closes the refrigerator and sees that his daughter May, we got the name right. She drew a red and blue spider and says, "I drew a picture of your spider. I hope you like it. You're the best. Love, May." And it's a very cute issue, and that's the end of it. That's all she wrote. And then it's funny we're talking about clickbait a little bit at the beginning. The cover for next issue is him fighting Kingpin, but no, I don't trust it. I don't think they're gonna come to blows at all. So, but
I
it's still a nice cover though.
it's a great cover. God, like it I don't know what to expect. So it could happen.
Mm,
I would be disappointed if there wasn't at least like a meeting or a confrontation,
mm,
because like they're basically unaware of each other
yeah.
at this point. Like they might know. I mean, like Kingpin kind of knows of another vigilante's existence.
Hmm.
Um, Also, he does mention that there's two vigilantes, right?
Yeah, he mentions there's two
That's how he mentions
vigilantes.
Green Goblin, right?
Yeah.
Um, Maybe another uh red herring, or maybe another like wrench in the remixing of the mythos.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe they're just calling him a vigilante because he's like stealing from them or something. But
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. That could be interesting. I wanna mention just something really quick. When Shocker is jumping off the rooftops and he's like using the power gloves to do that.
Hmm.
Yeah, like again, like these are more grounded interpretations, like aesthetically,
Hmm.
but they're still doing like comic book shit, which I do appreciate.
Hmm.
Like because that could look silly, but
It's very silly.
like,
He puts his
he could just
Shocker
do that.
glove in between his legs and he like leapfrogs off of a
Yeah.
roof.
I mean, that's why I think
Hmm.
Shocker is cool too, even though he's like a loser a lot of the time,
Hmm.
which I also love. I love when these characters are losers.
Yeah, you just love
But he's
loser
like,
characters.
yeah, because you can do the most with them. I don't like
Hmm.
so fucking boring when they're perfect and shit. Like, but he's like a smart guy. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know about this interpretation of the character, but he made his own gloves.
Hmm.
So like, he's clearly not dumb. He's just an idiot, you
Yeah.
know. And it's like you could just do so much with that. Like,
Hmm.
imagine if he fought like Daredevil or something, because they're like sound
Oh my
waves,
gosh,
you
that'd
know.
be
And it's like, and no
crazy.
one's done this, you know. It's just like there's so much on the table with that character. It's a little frustrating, but whatever. Um,
You know what? His
and then for
intelligence
the
is high. The wisdom is not.
yeah, yeah, uh, pure of brain, dumb of ass, you know.
Yes.
Um, and then the last page with the little the writing May left with the spider is like the cutest thing ever.
Hmm.
Um, I am very curious if we're just gonna jump to the next suit. I would like to see them work on the suit together, or
Hmm.
like see him like develop like the colors on it or whatever. And I want to say that that last line is totally Hickman just fucking calling his shot. That's crazy. Like that's the
Oh, I
first
didn't
time
even
I've ever.
realize it. He says,
Uh
"Or
huh.
maybe I'll give it one more day." Oh
That's
my
that is so
god.
fucking crazy. It's like you're taking the title of arguably the most disliked Spider-Man comic of arguably the comic that killed like mainstream comics, and he's like, I'm gonna make it emotional catharsis at the end of this comic book. I'm gonna do it
Oh,
because
that's
I'm Jonathan Hickman.
insane. If
Yeah.
for our listeners who may not be well versed, Peter and MJ were married, I believe. They were married and together. And then there was a whole bunch of nonsense where they broke up. And the whole point of it was a lot of nonsense. But the name of that event was called One More Day. So Peter ending this issue being, face it, you might not be cut out for this. Or maybe I'll give it one more day. And it's just, that's so, I didn't even, thank you for pointing that out. That's so fucking cheeky. It's so cheeky
Yeah,
of you, Mr. Hickman.
it is. It's so good. Um, God bless you, Jonathan Hickman. That was
God bless
crazy.
you, Jonathan Hickman.
That's the craziest thing in this comic, honestly.
You know what? As for the costume thing, Hickman's certainly taking his time telling this story. So I could see them I could see him not having the red and blue for a while. Maybe next arc or something. Like I could see them taking their time with it.
Yeah. Have you heard the parable of Surf Dracula?
What?
Okay, it's this funny tweet. I don't remember who tweeted it, but they were saying like, back in the day when you watch TV shows in the
Hmm.
70s or whatever, you watched like something called Surf Dracula. Every week it would be Dracula surfing.
Hmm.
There's be something happening and get Dracula to surf. But nowadays it would be like a 10 episode event series, and he would only become Surf Dracula in the last like 10 minutes of the first season
Hmm.
because he has to earn the Surf Dracula board.
Oh my god.
I think a
I hate
lesser
that.
version of this Ultimate's interpretation
Hmm.
would stress me out because I'd be like, just put him back in the suit. But with Hickman doing it, it's like, well, what is his lack of like his suit literally has no identity yet.
Hmm.
You
It's
know, it's like
blank.
it's actually exploring something versus like we're just gonna make him wait to earn the suit. It's like, okay, you can do that, but like it has to like mean something. You can't just not do it because you want it to be earned. Like, what does it mean to even want to earn it? Why does he have to
Hmm.
earn it? And here it's not even about earning, it's just about figuring it out. I'm like, I think what this issue is telling us is like the more he opens up with the people he cares about, the more he's gonna rediscover who he really is. Not that there's anything wrong with who
Hmm.
he was. It's just it's clear that his family is just as essential as him being Spider-Man
Yeah,
again.
exactly. And
So
it's the thing is, his suit is very representative of his mindset. I feel because he has a purpose, but he doesn't have a clear direction. He's like, I'm gonna
yeah,
explore this. I want to do this, but there's no like specified direction. He's jumping around the city. He's not specifically going for anything, and because that isn't specific or planned out, his suit doesn't really have any details to it aside from the big old eye masks, the big old. But
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, I have one more quick
go
little
for it. I brought
metaphor.
you here for
Hmm.
a reason. Go
Thank
for
you.
it.
There's this guy out in the desert who's like riding a horse, right?
Hmm.
And he's like flopping around, like he's not even buckled down. His legs are flopping all over the place. Someone sees him running by, and the horse is just taking off. And he goes, "Hey, where you going?" And the guy on the horse goes, "I don't know. Ask the horse." And it's like I kind of feel like, while hopefully well-meaning, this Peter Parker is like, "Yeah, I did this, but I don't know where I'm going
Yeah.
yet." you know,
Oh my gosh,
doesn't mean the
I
horse
love
is
that.
wrong.
Mhm.
It's just like you want to give it some direction. Um,
And
but again, it's a
it's
feature,
all
not a bug.
it's all about Peter being a mess, as we go back to. He's
Yeah.
always kind of a mess. But that is the end of the issue. We get a preview page. Ultimate Black Panther's out, and Ultimate X-Men is out in March. I'm very excited for Ultimate X-Men. I'm gonna be picking that up. I love that they gave Peach Momoko, who I love as an artist, they gave her a lot of control, and they're not starting with Jean. They're not starting with Wolverine. They're starting with Armor, which is such like a C list. She's gotten bigger. I'll say she's gotten like C B list X Men. I'm very excited to pick it up. And in a world where mutants already existed, we're not getting a X Men origin story. We're not get There is no X Men. It's just like a mutant girl figuring her shit out. So I'm very interested in Ultimate X Men. But yeah, what's your thoughts on the whole issue uh as now that we've gone through it? What's your thoughts? Yeah.
Not as strong as the first one, but the
Hmm.
first one's just like such a fucking like adrenaline shot to like
Hmm.
an entire industry. I don't know how it could be as good as that.
Hmm.
Like, I don't think that's hyperbole either. Like, I do think a lot of people paid attention to that first comic book and like, holy shit, like
Hmm.
they made it good again. Like, there's something worth checking out here. And this is just a further promise that like, no, 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 keep tuning in. We're gonna keep turning out interesting stuff. Um,
Hmm.
so if the first one's like 5 stars, A plus, whatever, this one's like a really strong B plus.
Hmm.
You know, like yeah, you guys clearly know what you're doing.
Hmm.
See you next month.
The first issue did like an amazing outline, and this one's starting to color it in a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm very excited to see where it goes. That's the end of this episode. Thank you so much, Diego, my biological father, for joining us
Yep.
in this journey. I was birthed from your loins. Do you have anything to plug?
That's true. I did give birth to you.
You did.
Let's see. The Waffle Press, of course. Gene and I doing more episodes, getting on more fun guests. We did a great episode with our friend Lexi Van Dyke over at Schooled by Cinema.
Mhm.
So I want to shout that out because I like that podcast a lot too. So it was a real treat having her on. The retrospectives are back. We're doing the failed award contenders right now, as of this recording, and I believe this uploading Babylon will be out, and then next week we're doing.
Mhm.
How do we record? Truman Show. There we go. Sorry, Truman Show. But yeah, that we got some bangers this season on that retrospective. If you want to hear me be a hater, definitely tune into the Babylon episode. If you want to hear me fumble over how much I like a movie that I struggle to talk about it, then you'll like the Truman Show episode more.
I like the Truman Show.
Oh my god,
It's
that movie's so
fun.
fucking good.
It's so good. Let's watch it.
Sorry, it's so good.
It's really good.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I love doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a delight. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for so much for coming. If y'all are still listening to this, I don't know why, but check out the Waffle Press's Avatar retrospectives. I loved listening to those, particularly to the Korra ones, just because I love. I'm not gonna say it's better, but I love the Korra series a bit more than I do the Avatar one. So listen to those retrospectives. Definitely, they're really good, especially with Avatar out right now and the discussions going around it. Which I haven't watched. I haven't watched Avatar. Did you watch? Did you watch the Netflixes? Did you watch any of that?
No, no. A mutual friend of ours gave me their Netflix, and I just haven't used it yet. But I don't think I'll be watching that. We're not going to cover that
Yeah.
on the retrospectives. Like, friend of the show, Soren Howe.
Shout out Soren.
Real. Shout out Soren, real OG Twitter pal. Excellent writer, excellent podcast host. We were kind of shooting the shit over malfeasance with the live action version. Maybe might talk about it eventually. I don't know if we're gonna do it for a podcast. We just like each other's company. We yeah. So if something happens down the line, you'll all hear about it on the Twitter. But yeah, thank you. I liked recording those that dual series retrospective as well. Yeah, I used to be able to be like, oh, I like Last Airbender more, I like Korra more, and then I'm like, I don't know, I don't like my one child more than the other. You know, that's why I have so many of them.
I love them in different
Obviously.
ways. I'll go with Aang to get an ice cream, and I'll grab a beer with Korra, and I'm happy with both.
Yeah, I think Korra is my favorite character. So.
But yeah, you can follow me on Noah is Garcia. Also, wait, your TikTok, Diego, and Instagram. I enjoy those.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, what's my TikTok? I don't even know.
I don't know.
Diego Crest photos.
I'm gonna look it up.
Diego.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's
Diego does amazing photography on his Instagram.
Oh, thank you.
Diego Crespograms, and you can follow him on TikTok as Diego Cresp Photos. Crest Photos. Diego Crest Photos.
Okay, that's it. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting back into film photography, so I'm trying out some stuff. Maybe I should remember to label the old respooled films that I shoot because I did not, and some stuff was underdeveloped and underexposed. But then half of that roll was really cool, and the colors were insane. So live and you learn.
Live and you learn. And if you want to see me live and learn, you can check out Noah Izzo Garcia across the board at TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr. I have a Letterbox. I have 3 films on there. You can follow me at Noah Izzo Garcia on Letterbox because the 3 films are the Animated Crisis, Blue Beetle, and Madam Web, and I loved all of them in different ways.
Why?
Because they're bad. They're all bad.
Well, you can find your photos on your Instagram and TikTok as well,
yeah,
right?
Yes, you can. You can find my photos on
there. Yeah, you're a good photographer.
Shut up. Anyways, goodbye. I'm kind of
goodbye, everyone. Goodbye Jonathan Demme.
Goodbye, Jonathan Hickman.